see that banquet over there? I can get in and out in 3 minutes.
And do what?
Well, rob it.
Bandit stars Josh Duhamel, Alicia Cuthbert, and Mel Gibson. It's based on a true crime story about a charming American career criminal who escapes prison to Canada, where he assumes an alias, falls in love, wants to give her everything, but he's got bupkis. So he starts robbing banks and becomes so good at it, he travels the country, hitting one after another. Then kind of gets greedy and in deep with a mobster who's as ruthless as the detective who's trying to track him down. Sounds good, huh? Well, here to break and enter it all down is director Alan Unger from Toronto, Canada.
That's right.
Good to see you, Alan.
Good to see you.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
This sounds like a dream story, dream cast, director's dream. How long ago did the real life story of the Flying Bandit happen? And how did this thing land on your lap?
So this happened in the 80s. Basically, he was caught in 87, so he was on a spree for a few years before I was even born. So growing up, I heard about it. And so the writer, Craig Wenman, who's from Vancouver, he was living in Ottawa when this was going down. And he heard these sort of like urban legends and rumors about this unstoppable guy. So when he became a successful writer, he tracked down the publisher, met Robert Knuckle, who wrote the book, which is based on Gilbert's life, and introduced him to the real criminal and got the life rights. And so Craig and I shared an agent, and they sent me the script, and I fell in love with it.
So between that, Vancouver writer, Toronto director, Alicia Cuthbert, Calgary, I think originally, right?
Yeah.
Good Canadian girl. Do you think Canadians will come away from this thing feeling it was kind of homegrown storytelling, even though you had to use Georgia as a replacement for Canadian cities because of COVID, which is kind of flipping that script?
Yeah, I don't think that's ever been done before, by the way. No, listen, I mean, this is a Canadian story about Canadian people. And so it's really exciting for me because as a Canadian filmmaker, very rarely do we see movies set in Canada, you know, with like American stars.
Yeah,
so,
A-list stars.
Yeah, and so we were so excited to shoot this in Vancouver and Ottawa, and then we got the call during COVID that we're actually going to go down to Georgia and recreate 1980s Canada, which was a lot of fun.
You know, look, I don't know about you, we've all dreamed, I would think about pulling off the perfect heist. Mine's always been, you know, the perfect diamond heist. Get that rock, you know, go through all those layers of security, lasers and all that.
Here's the thing.
Get it, but then put it back. Nobody gets hurt. I just want to know that I can do it.
Yeah.
You know, but
it's for your ego.
It's totally ego. It's totally ego. But, you know, I think this movie goes a long way. The life of crime, just like live TV, not so glamorous, really, is it?
Listen, he got away with a lot.
Yeah.
He got away with 59. He still has a record for the most consecutive robberies in all of Canadian history. So,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, an unbelievable story. You know, and the funny thing is that he actually discovered the Aeroplan program. Okay, so so what he did, well, this is why he became the Flying Bandit. So he discovered the Aeroplan program. He racked up points, and he would fly himself first class around the country to rob banks and then go home for dinner.
Okay, now
you got to see the movie.
You got to see, and you got to respect that.
Yeah.
Man, I want to talk about the experience of seeing movies as a director, streaming, screening, right? You're going to be doing both of it, and that's the way it is. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about the way films are being, you know, marketed and experienced today in this digital realm versus, you know, being in a theater with a group of strangers, a big group of strangers?
Look, I went to my first TIFF movie last night, Prisoner's Daughter. You guys were just covering it in 2 years, and there is nothing like the communal experience of being in a theater, feeling the same emotions as everybody else, laughing when they laugh, crying when they cry. I think, look, the accessibility of being at home and having streaming is really important, but we can't get rid of this communal experience that you know, the theatrical offers us.
And I got to ask to wrap things up about the cast. What a great cast.
Yeah.
Did they come to you? Did you go to them?
I chased them. And Alicia, a fellow Canadian, was my first choice for the role. And so when she called me from her Toronto area code, I was so relieved. I was like, fellow Canadian, let's go to Georgia.
Awesome. Alan Unger, can't wait to see this one. It makes its digital and theatrical debut 1 week from tomorrow, right?
Yeah, 23rd.
Bandit is the movie. Alan Unger is the director. Thanks for coming in, man. It's a pleasure to meet you. Awesome stuff. All right. Part pinball, part freight train on the football field. CFL legend, Hall of Famer, and Argo GM Mike Clemens is also interested and invested in a new kind of locomotion on the lake. Rapid Transit Hoverlink. Here to do the wet work, friend of the show, Michael Pinball Clemens. Good to see you, sir.
Wonderful to see you as well. Always great to see you.
Always good to have you here in the flesh as well.
Good.
Oh, well, look, let's start here. This idea, proposal, this really cool technology, something that's been around for a while, but it's really come to fruition now, and you're part of it.
Well, there are things that have been talked about. This particular one this is the first the public has learned about this particular project. And the gentleman who started is a good friend of mine, and he came to me, he says, Mike, nobody knows about this. We're at the beginning. And he says, I have this idea that I believe can transform transit, and this thing it's absolutely incredible, right?
Looks really like futuristic.
Yeah, when you look at it, it's amazing. But I mean, this is a game changer because it unites like two of our biggest tourism. I think two of our three largest tourist areas, connects them together, and so we can bring all the things that we love around sports, but we also have all the other things that can happen as a part of this, and it's environmentally friendly, right?
Right.
You know, it takes cars off the road. It goes across in 30 minutes. Yes.
That's that's the seller right there, right?
That
I mean, if you don't own a chopper,
yes.
I mean, I've been up a couple of times, and that's I've always thought, man, wouldn't it be great to be able to bypass all that traffic?
Yes.
And here you go.
Right, and not only that, it's good for your life, right, by all the good things that it, but it's also good for wildlife because it actually hovers over the water. It goes 365 days a year. That's one of the big things.
Just took my next question. Winter in Canada, the lake doesn't always freeze over, but it can go.
Right. So this actual craft, the makings of this craft, is actually what our Coast Guard, our Canadian Coast Guard uses if you got in trouble. You were out on the water, especially up north or somewhere, because it goes across the water. It's not in the water. So hover is exactly what it means. It hovers across.
It sounds like a perfect fit for a guy like you to be part of a project like this too, right? Your chop wood, carry water, your work ethic, and it sounds like the work's been done.
Well, and that part is great, but what I get to do is some of the fun stuff. I'm going to be able to help give young people access to go places and to do things, and so there is certainly a community aspect of this. So I'll be doing some of the other stuff, but I really love the community, as you know.
I got to talk Argos. Look, you guys have won 3 in a row. You're 4 points up in the Alouettes now, right? Mm-hmm. It was heartbreaking for me, and of course you when you lost Andrew Harris for the season, but MBT has been TNT. I'd say these last couple of games. I mean, you got to love what's happening on the field with your boys.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And MBT, you know, with quarterbacks, they're always the focus. But we have to give some tribute to that defense. That defense has been amazing this year. So defense never gets the credit, right? But MBT, we got to hug him and celebrate him. But we want to give some credit to that defense.
Let's give some props to special teams too, because they've done a job as well.
No question about it. Total team. That's so. We've come together like nicely.
And quickly, how's the work going with the Pinball Clemens Foundation?
Thank you so much for asking. It continues to grow, and we've had so many wonderful people now who are collaborating with us, and young people are going from the margins to mainstream. So they're going from their own community to great jobs that lead to 6-figure opportunities over 5 to 10 years. And so this is really transforming, much like the hovercraft will transform the way we do things. This is transforming the way they'll live.
We're out of time, but when will we see this thing on the water, the Hoverlink?
I'm so that was my last point. 2023, the summer of 2023.
Awesome, Michael.
So yes, less than a year away.
Yeah. Maybe we could have the Grey Cup parade could go on the lake as well as on the strip? Throw that cup on the lake?
Yes, now, but we want it to be Toronto.
Oh, Toronto,
Hamilton.
Go by Hamilton, say see ya, and bring it home. Michael, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Great initiative. We'll look forward to that next year.
Welcome back to CP24 Breakfast. Well, CTV science and tech expert Dan Riskin usually rounds up the latest in the science world, but today he's actually sharing his passion and expertise on bats. He studied them all over the world, from New Zealand to Madagascar, and now he's written a book for kids about his favorite animals, and it's a picture book. I think you have it behind you, Dan. It's called Fiona and the Fruit Bat, and he joins us live for more on this. So first of all, Dan, congratulations. This is a book about a baby bat who was scared to fly because it's too scared of the dark. Now, you're a bat scientist. Is this a realistic premise?
Yeah, it is. And actually, you know, I got to get kids excited about science. And the thing for me that makes science so exciting is bats. They're great. And when bats are born, they don't know how to echolocate. So they don't know how to use their sonar to perceive the environment around them. So in a cave, a baby bat is in the dark, can't see, can't echolocate, doesn't know what's around it. And then after it's about 3 weeks old, it figures out how to echolocate. And that's about the same day that it learns how to fly. And I've always thought that for a baby bat that's sort of like living in this tiny world, all of a sudden everything opens up like a puppy that first opens its eyes. And I've always wondered what that would be like. And so I've tried to tell that story because I think, you know, we expect kids to do new things and to try things all the time. And it's scary to do that. As adults, we tend not to do that at all. And so I really wanted to get inside the head of this baby bat that's going for her first flight to try to imagine what that would be like.
Yeah, that is fascinating because we always hear about, you know, parents pushing off their kids out of the nest and birds flying.
Yeah.
So it's good to get that take on bats. Very cool. So Dan, this book is actually based on a real life bat that you met in a Costa Rican cave when you were a young grad student. So tell us about this story.
Yeah, the very first time I went to the tropics to study bats, I stuck my head into this cave and got face to face with this bat. And the way it looked at me, you just knew that there was a personality in there. You just knew that it was a real bat. And so that was a Corollia bat. I knew exactly what species it was. And that story of that bat and that presence has been with me ever since. And so I carried that all the way to creating this book. I had the idea for what would happen in the story. I went to my publisher, Greystone. I worked with Rachel Tutsi for the illustrations, and just really helping me to get that story into a format that it would really appeal to kids. And so I'm really hopeful that it'll resonate with kids and adults, and that it will hopefully get them excited about bats, because that's ultimately the goal for me.
And speaking of excitement and keeping up that engagement, at the end of your book, there are some exercises for kids and parents. So what does that include?
Yeah, well, so this bat learns how to perceive its world from echolocation. And people can echolocate too, but we just never do it. But we can. So if you're in a room that has a lot of echoes, like if you're singing in the shower, it sounds different from when you're outside. And so we perceive our environment with our sounds. And so at the end of the book, I've got some exercises that kids can do, or grown-ups, where you just basically click your tongue and hold things in front of your face or move them away. And you'll find that you actually have the same ability as Fiona the fruit bat, that you also can echolocate. And that's an ability you can build up if you want to. There are people who are visually impaired that can ride a bicycle in traffic using that technique. So it's amazing stuff.
Wow. And you also, as a kid, don't need to be afraid of the dark for long.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's another reason that the people will resonate with this bat, because I think the fear of the dark and the fear of the unknown is something all of us can agree
relate to. Absolutely. Well, Dan, congratulations on your book, Fiona the Fruit Bat. Where can people get it very quickly? Bookstores?
People can pick it up at their local bookseller.
Okay.
And tomorrow from 6 to 8, I'll be at Ella Minnow Books in the East End signing copies if you want to come there. Please do.
Awesome. Okay, I'll be picking up a copy for sure. Dan Riskin, CTV science and tech expert, congrats and thanks again.
So come.
All right, so sit down.
Just sit with your back straight. Look into the camera. No smiling. And tilt your head a little bit to the right. Too much? Okay, hold it there.
The first feature film from the 4 all-female founders of Sunflower Studios is making its premiere at TIFF, When Morning Comes. It follows a 10-year-old boy's journey from rural Jamaica to live with his grandmother in Toronto and the challenges of an uncertain immigrant future. And we welcome the women of Sunflower Studios, producers Sasha Lee Henry, Tamar Bird, and Eva Golubovic.
Well done.
I got it?
Yeah.
All right. Everyone pauses and waits for me to mispronounce it. Thank you all for joining us. And we do have to note right away that your director, Kelly, isn't going to make it today. She's under the weather, but I'm sure she's watching. I hope she's watching at home, Kelly.
Feel better, Kelly.
Yeah.
Feel better.
Now, Sasha, I'll start with you. This film's kind of a hymn to Jamaica, isn't it?
Yes.
In many respects. And it mirrors Kelly's own experience coming to this country back 22 years ago. So in terms of the story, how it was came from page to screen, was it? I mean, did she keep journals? Is she a diarist? Was it all just tattooed on the brain? How did it happen?
Funny enough, so we initially came together to make a film called Summer of the Gun, which is a story about from the center of 5 different people living in the Jane and Finch community during the year of Toronto's one of the most violent years that we've had on record, the year 2005. And we really wanted to make that film, and we were in conversations with a number of funding partners and didn't think that we would get the budget that we felt like the movie deserve to tell a story like this about Toronto. And so we were lucky enough to get some funding from Telefilm and the Talent to Watch program. And so we really, once we thought Summer of the Gun might not be able to happen, as producers, we kind of went to Kelly and were really, you know, imploring her, like, is there another story with the funding that we do have that we think we'll be able to tell? And in true artist fashion, she was resistant. But then one day in the shower, a story came to her, and that is When Morning Comes, which is now the prequel to Summer of the Gun.
Wow. Tamar, casting, funding, selling, these can be sometimes cruel problems in the world of intimate filmmaking. You know, was it, you know, wet work labor, or was it a labor of love to take all those steps for all of you?
Yeah, it was a labor of love for us, for sure, especially knowing that this story is a self-autobiography of Kelly's life, immigrating from the world and coming into Canada. I feel like we all put together our love, our passion, our money to our personal funds to fund this film because we believed in it. Before we even stepped foot in an airport to go to Jamaica, we knew that we were making something great and special.
Eva, how did the four of you come together? Tell us that story.
So we've all been friends for a while, actually, working in the industry in different areas. And then actually during COVID, started spending more time together and realized that maybe we should bring our resources together and start telling stories we actually want to see. And we've been lucky enough to be in the industry for a number of years that we can actually get funding. And so we got funding for the film, and are now hoping to produce a few more TV shows.
Nice.
So we'll see.
Sasha, you know, we tend to get pulled into America's orbit and that gravity when it comes to cultural issues, all kinds of things. But the Afro-Canadian Caribbean, or Afro-Caribbean Canadian experience, it's a lot different. It's a different backstory, different black story.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think it's one of the things we lose when we get absorbed in the American culture too much is the kind of the cultural layers and relevancy of the many places that a lot of Canadian immigrants come from. You know, all of us are either the kids of immigrants, or Eva herself, you know, immigrated here from Montenegro, Kelly as well from overseas. So it's a very big part of our culture and important to the fabric. We didn't want to miss those details.
And you know, the mosaic, where you're a tile within a bigger tapestry but still independent, versus the melting pot, Tamar, of America, where you come and you blend into the soup. Different, you know, this was the promise of Expo 67. Is that still the experience for immigrants, do you feel, today?
I can't speak for every immigrant, but at least I can speak for my parents and how they see it, and they know. I know my mother is very happy of the choices that her parents made, and gave her, and my father and her have given me and my sister amazing life here, but they do at times miss going back home and being amongst what was life for them for so long. But I think it's a happy medium, right? You take the good and bad, and everywhere there's a good and bad, positive, negative.
Eva, we're just out of time. Tell me about TIFF, where the film's going to be, screening, and where it goes from here.
Yeah, so our closing screening is tomorrow at the TIFF Bell Lightbox. And then we are currently partnered with Photon, who's our Canadian distributor, so we'll be working with them to see where it goes from here.
I cannot wait to see what comes from your minds, your hearts next. Very happy for you, very proud of you too.
Thank you.
For the hard work you put into this. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Have fun and break legs with all your new projects.
Thank you.
Well.